Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Turning Towards Life with me, Lizzie, and this is lovely Justin with me. We are delighted to be here again. This is very moving to both me and Justin that we get to do this, and we're very, very grateful to be here as part of the wider Thirdspace being in the world, which is essentially a small organization of friends and colleagues, and we do these kind of things. We have these kind of conversations and we run programs and do our best to participate in the world in a meaningful way where we're making some kind of contribution. And this feels like both a contribution and a receptivity to me. So each Sunday we get to, and we have done now for 80 something weeks, we get to be with each other, have these wonderful conversations that we would probably ordinarily be having. But the difference is that we get to share them with people. And it's very beautiful to do this, very sanity inducing for both of us, and also a blessing to be able to just say what feels like is ours to say in the world through also these wonderful sources that we each keep finding that apparently are never ending. And each week I think, oh no, I'm not going to find something. What's it going to be this week? And always something pops up, and we just have this beautiful collection of resources available to us. So I'm very appreciative of this poem reading that we're going to look at today, and just very appreciative as always to be here with you, Justin, and entering into this lovely space that we've made.
Yeah, me too, Lizzie. Good morning, everyone. This is a week where I have chosen the source, and I want to say a couple of things before we start. So the first thing is, you can always find our sources at our website, little micro website, turningtowards.life. And if you want to find out about Thirdspace and all that we do, including coaching and programs where you can learn to do the kind of work that we do as well, which we call integral development coaching, you can check us out at wearethirdSpace.org. And our year-long professional coach training program is, we have one that's ending, which I'm just going to talk about in a second because it's related to this source. And we also have one that's beginning in July. And if you are at all interested in that, wearethirdSpace.org is a place to find out about it. But also, Lizzie, you and I recorded a conversation about the program a few weeks ago, which is always available on our podcast and is always available on turningtowards.life as well. So if you want to find out more, we are there doing this, a Turning Towards Life episode, talking about it. One of the reasons I wanted to mention the program here is to acknowledge by way of thanks that this poem that we are reading and talking about this week came to us from somebody who is a participant, a student on the current professional coaching course. So one of the things that we've had going on in the background of the program is a way in which people can share thoughts, questions, ideas, sources, poems with one another. We have a wonderful piece of technology that helps us with that. And at some point during the year, this poem arrived out of the blue from someone who's on the program. So that's how I know about it. And I'm going to just dive in as we do and read it first, Lizzie, and then we can hear you read it and then we can talk. It's called The Cure, and it is by the wonderfully named Albert Huffstickler. I smile every time I read his name. The Cure. We think we get over things. We don't get over things. Or say, we get over the measles, but not a broken heart. We need to make that distinction. The things that become part of our experience never become less a part of our experience. How can I say it? The way to get over a life is to die. Short of that, you move with it. Let the pain be pain. Not in the hope that it will vanish, but in the faith that it will fit in, find its place in the shape of things, and be then not any less pain, but true to form. Because anything natural has an inherent shape and will flow towards it, and life is as natural as a leaf. That's what we're looking for, not the end of a thing, but the shape of it. wisdom is seeing the shape of your life without obliterating, getting over a single instant of it.
The cure. We think we get over things. We don't get over things. Or say we get over the measles, but not a broken heart. We need to make that distinction. The things that become part of our experience never become less a part of our experience. How can I say it? The way to get over a life is to die. Short of that, you move with it. Let the pain be pain, not in the hope that it will vanish, but in the faith that it will fit in, find its place in the shape of things. And be then not any less pain, but true to form. Because anything natural has an inherent shape and will flow towards it. And a life is as natural as a leaf. That's what we're looking for, not the end of a thing, but the shape of it. Wisdom is seeing the shape of your life without obliterating, brackets, getting over, a single instant of it.
I'm already struck in hearing you read how often, how easy it is for me, and I'm sure this is true for lots of people, is to feel things and experience things and conclude that whatever it is that I'm feeling or experiencing doesn't have a place. It shouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling you just before we started, Lizzie, about a recurrent experience I have of waking up into a something which for me often feels like, well, at different times in my life I've said it's fear, and I don't know that fear is the best word for it. These days I think it's something like grief, or it may just be confusion, but it's definitely a something. It's a strong, emotional, physical, everything, something. And what this poem reminds me of is, I've just remembered in saying this what the title of the poem is. It's called The Cure. That how often my first move is to try to cure myself of it. But usually not even then in a very intelligent way, mostly along the lines of, I shouldn't be feeling this, something is wrong. I must do something to get out of this feeling, and my habitual way that I learned when I was very small is to think my way out of things. So there I am, awake into something, and then furiously trying to think my way through. And what I found, so I know that a large part of this is a mistake, and then I forget that it's a mistake. So I need reminders like this, because one of the things that I'm finding about this is that to fight it, as in to deny it its place, is like keeping a part of myself out that is really longing to find a way to come home. So I recognize this. I try to get over it. That's why I'm very moved by the line bang in the middle of this poem, which is the faith that it will fit in.
Mm.
That if I give it, that if I honor and dignify and there's another word I'm looking for that I might come back to me later, something in the face of it and welcome it. Piece by piece, my life has a way of also fitting in with itself. I also know that too.
Yeah. And this image that's painted that our life is as natural as a leaf, and that leaf has inherent shape, and everything that's happening is inherently infinitely flowing towards the shape of the life that we have. It feels like an allowance, a permission for all of these things to be part of it, rather than for us to do this selective thing, like you're saying, well, this shouldn't be happening, but to fully embrace what's here as an intelligent part of the journey, that's got gifts in it, that's got fullness in it, that adds dimensions to our lives that otherwise wouldn't be there. And sometimes when it really hurts, it's really hard to do that, because pain isn't it's not enjoyable. It doesn't feel good. And so of course there's this part of us that wants to push it away and have things and save people from it too and stop it. And so I think also the line, letting the pain be the pain, and then allowing it to be something we're not killing or getting over, as Albert's saying, but that it becomes part of us. And that makes sense to me. Like, if I look back at the really difficult things that have happened to me, I found peace with things and can look at them without being so upset or wounded or whatever. But they're no less a part of me than they were when I was really having lots of feelings about them. And they've shaped to now what is my life. And so if I look back for the evidence of getting over things or removing them somehow, I can't really see any. If I really think about it, it's like oh, well, that made me into something a little bit different when that happened. And I can see that it's included in the shape of me now. Like, how I can be with people now includes all the things that have happened. And if what's gone on for however many years continues just to carry on, that's going to be true. And to have faith in the shaping of me feels like a big relief, because I too have all these experiences of thinking, I'd rather not be feeling this, I don't want this, this is too hard, this time it's going to get me, I can't handle it, or something, please can it go away, it's too scary, too vulnerable. And to have this reminder, this invitation to cultivate an inclusion of that stuff with faith, that me is that, like what I am is that, as well as lots of other things, somehow lets me let it in and let it be there without trying to change it, because trying to change it is another layer of suffering that need not be there. It's the changing or the fixing that creates more pain. If it's the pure reactive triggered pain, at least I'm not layering something else on, that there's something wrong with it, so I have to remove it, but I can actually process and feel and trust that I can keep breathing through and let it be here and not try and remove it.
There's so much in what you're saying. And one of the things that's coming to me is maybe one of the traps that we end up in comes from the sense that we have that we are or ought to be in charge. Mm-hmm. Like somehow, and particularly I think this affects us when it's one thing to understand, and it's a big thing to understand, that actually I can't control the world, I can't control other people, I can't control events, there's so much that, so giving up that myth that I'm somehow a god in the middle of things who is directing the world from this central place it's a big move for all of us. But it also turns out that, and why shouldn't it, that extends to what we would call our inner world, the world of experience and felt sense and sensation and emotion and story and all of that. And I think that most of us, and it has benefited us in some ways, of course, but most of us who've grown up at this time of history, and particularly in the part of the world, Lizzie, that you and I are from, have been taught that we are the ones who are in charge, and to be in charge of ourselves and to be in charge of everything is the ultimate mark of worth as a human being.
Mhm.
In fact, I was in a conversation yesterday where someone was asking me about someone else. So, are they self-made? There was someone who'd been very successful in business, and are they self-made? And they're right in the middle of that is the idea that somehow we're independent agents. I don't. We bump against the world and bump against one another, but we can be in charge of all this. And it's so helpful to remember that we're not in charge of our inner worlds either. We have a place in them and some influence there, and we certainly have many choices about how to come at them. And the image that came to me whilst you were talking, actually, when you were reading the poem the first time, was a little bit like, and it's a different angle from Albert Hofstikler's angle on this, but was a bit like a jigsaw puzzle when a new piece comes in. And you're trying to turn it and turn it and turn it, and does it fit and will it go? Maybe this piece just doesn't belong here at all, and I'm going to banish it. And when you said rightly and wisely that when we find a way that these pieces that come into our lives that feel angular and odd and unwelcome and like they shouldn't be there, and when we believe that it's our job to get rid of them because I'm in charge of this whole thing, it misses something very alive and very important, which is that this piece may fit in a way that I don't yet know. Mm. And second thing is when it takes up its place, I will be different. I won't be the same person. And I'm not in charge of who I'll be when it takes up its place, but I can be present to and welcoming of who I become as I allow my grief and my pain and my sorrow and my confusion and and all of that and my joy. I mean, some of us do this with joy, right? No, I won't have that. It's very touching to hear, for me anyway, to hear you point out that our welcoming of all of this over time, without rush and without tempting to be in charge of all of it, opens us. And has us able to respond to the world in ways that we probably never knew were even possible.
Yeah, I feel like, in a way, Justin, that's why our work with other people is so meaningful to me, because it feels like it's the place where I really know that everything has a place. Like, whatever has gone before to shape me is an enabler. It makes me able to be with myself more, but also to be with others more. And so I feel like it kind of dignifies the things that we've judged as a terrible thing that happened to me. When you work with people in a kind of safe and meaningful way, it feels like I get to really genuinely see how important it was that those things happened, or that I felt those things, or I went through that thing, because it leaves me in a far, far more open, resourced, relaxed, welcoming, safe way with others. And so I'm not the only beneficiary of the wisdom of the things, but other people are too. And then I get to be the beneficiary of the things that they have been in. And so when you were speaking, that I think the image we used a few Turning Towards Life episodes backwards was the one where if someone knocks on your door, a really normal reaction would be to say, oh, come and have a cup of tea. and then there's another person at the table, and the table changes, and the room changes, and the dynamic changes because they arrived. And it just feels like that that open view and feeling in life seems a it seems a peaceful path to me. Like, instead of warring with the person at the door and kind of trying to push the door closed, but they really, really want to come in. It's like flowing with what's presenting, letting what's being presented be welcome here and embraced here and really taken on and in. And I feel like that's why this is such a reciprocal situation we're in. Between you and I, between us and anybody listening, between anyone who comes into each of our coaching practices or our classes or our wider work in the world, or things that get brought to us inside of relationship, there's a way we can welcome. And I feel so glad that that's a possibility, because it would feel so life would be really different if I didn't feel like that was possible. I can feel like the impossibility of it as well, like all the times where I feel defensive, all the times where I push things away. And I know that experience is right next to it is the opportunity to see what I'm doing, and then to realign myself and say, no, I can welcome this. Like, even this I can welcome. And of course there's edges to that and difficulties to that, but just the knowing and feeling that it's possible, and that I can get support when I'm finding something hard to welcome, feels like a huge gift.
As so often when you're speaking, I'm reminded that we don't have to do this alone.
Yeah.
And I'm very glad for you bringing back in, Lizzie, this metaphor we were talking about a few weeks ago. I remember now, because I was sitting at the table that I'm sitting at now, thinking about people coming and sitting beside me. Is that part of our difficulty with this is that when something happens that we feel like we want to get over, I think one of the things that's going on is that we are taking, at least I know I'm doing this, we take the experience that we're having as other. It's other to me. It's alien. I should not be having this. I should not be welcoming. My main job is to have you leave. Get out of my house. I will not have you here. That move. And there's something so important in the living of an individual life, but also in the life that we live with others, which we must do always, is to learn to recognize and dignify and sanctify the other, that which we take to be other than us. And the place that it starts is in ourselves. So this is it's a different way of talking about what you've been pointing at, I think, which is when we start to do that with ourselves, to welcome that which we would otherwise try and get over in ourselves, it also has the possibility of deepening our capacity to welcome both other human beings, but also the parts of other people that we and they may ordinarily be trying to get over. So then we can aid us in becoming someone who can take a stand of welcome, not just with ourselves, but with others around us who are in this, as we all are in one way or another, this struggle of obliterating, this attempt to obliterate ourselves and our lives. And I know this is one of the things I know for me from being with you, and that I've known from other people who I've had in my life who have been wonderful guides and coaches and teachers of mine, is that feeling of everything is welcome here, that's present is what allows me and all of the parts of me to be welcome too. And then I can come home. And then my whole way of being in life deepens, even if it's only for a while whilst I'm with them, deepens and opens them. So I think we need one another. None of this is a path that we walk alone. And it might be that this is one of the primary, one of the things that we human beings are really up to in the world, even when we don't know it, that what life is doing with us is helping teach us how to welcome that which we would otherwise other.
Weirdly, Justin, it's reminding me I broke my foot about must be nearly 10 years ago now, and I remember feeling like if I didn't, it was the lesson that I got from it was that if I didn't get straight with myself about what I was avoiding, my life would teach me that. Like when I fell over and snapped this bone in my foot, it was like I got to reflect a lot on a sofa with my leg up and a stupid tray on in front of me, and it made me really wildly cross that my life had been stopped and had to be still and all those things. And I think it would still be difficult for me now, but back then particularly it was really, really hard to be kind of stopped in my tracks of doing stuff I wanted to do, being with the people I wanted to be with, and it felt like, well, I was destined to learn this lesson, and I wasn't cultivating it for myself, from my own consciousness. And so something unconscious came in to really help me see that being still and stopping and being with myself was something I had to do. And so I've, from then on, just felt like, well, if I can feel something creeping to be knocking on my door saying, excuse me, this needs looking at, or this needs to become more conscious, I feel like if I have like I don't know, maybe a certain threshold beyond which my life will do it for me. Something will happen to show me what that is. And sometimes I can't get hold of the thing myself. And so life has to show me something that's for my learning. And other times I can go, oh, I could have looked at that a little bit before if I'd talked about it enough or been with people in that enough, if I'd been disclosive or brought it enough to the surface that I could face it, I could include it, rather than hold it at bay and deny it and be kind of holding it somewhere out of my awareness. So just when you're speaking, it just reminds me of that, and how allowing things to become part of our experience is a way of welcoming life, so that maybe we don't have to be kind of pushed. Like there's a dynamic there somehow.
Yes. That as Albert Huff-Stickler says in his way, we have a choice whether to open ourselves and have faith in what life is bringing us and treat it with suitable reverence, or to fight it. And the problem with fighting it is very often life will find a way to show us, often with increasing urgency. So there are no guarantees of what anything is when we enter it, but there's really something so powerful in what you're saying, in treating what happens in life as if it is there to find its place, rather than as if it being there to ride over or cut out. So I'm with you also that this is, I know so much of the work that we've got dedicated to doing in coaching is to have coaching be this, a way of making a space for everything rather than trying to conquer everything. I'm very, very pleased to get to work with you and with others in that way. So we've reached the end of our 86th go at this, Lizzie, and I'm feeling very glad. There's something definitely very nerdy about me that wants to count and enjoy the process of counting. But So I just want to say thank you to you, and thank you as always to everyone who's with us. And if you're, I came across this the other day, if you're listening to our podcast and you've made it with us to the end, I have a request for you, which is please leave us a review on whatever podcast platform you're on, because if you like this and you leave a review that is appreciative, so don't leave an appreciative review if you didn't enjoy being with us. But if you did, what it does is it helps other people to find us. That's the main reason to do it. So maybe please consider that. And we will be back here again, all being well, next Sunday.
Thank you for being with us, everybody. See you next
Thank
week.
you. Bye.